have no fear because I am here. Hey, it's Romania Black. I had to show off my Y'all Might shirt. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's time. I can't express how excited I am to be starting season 5 of My Hero Academia. I recently did a soapbox where I talked about seasons 1 through 4. So if you have no idea my views on seasons 1 through 4, there's a link to it down below. But yeah, I love My Hero Academia. It is such a good shonen. The manga is really, really good. And there's a lot of interesting things that I am excited for in this season. But if you didn't watch my soapbox, how I'm going to be doing these reactions is I am going to be watching episodes of My Hero Academia. We're going to do a non-spoiler discussion afterwards. After I'm done with reaction, I'm going to pause my video. I'm going to stop, go back and read the manga, come back. We'll do a non-spoiler discussion, and then afterwards we'll talk about spoilers for those that have read the manga and those that are, don't care if they're spoiled or not. But I'm so excited. Season 4 left off on such a high note. Man, season 4 ending with Endeavor fighting the Nomu, and the music, the animation, it was so, it had such a callback to season 3 when All Might faced All for One, and it was just, it was so good. So good. And so, it's left me hanging, and I can't believe time has passed so fast. It's almost been a year since since season 4 came out. Can you guys believe it? Almost a year. Crazy. But I'm so excited, y'all. I'm so excited. And there's supposedly a movie coming out this fall. It's going to be great. And so I'm really, really excited to see how and what they cover in season 5. For a show to be going on its 5th season and it still be consistently good and engaging, I think that's a pretty good sign of a good story. And Horikoshi definitely has a gem on his hands with this series. It's so fun. The combination of Western tropes of superheroes with that of Japanese, it's just chef's kiss. So, without further ado, y'all, we are going to start My Hero Academia Season 5. And Episode 1 is titled All Hands on Deck, Class 1A. So, quite a extra title for the opening episode of this. But yeah, we are going to start this, y'all. I'm so excited. I hope y'all are too. But thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoy. Please, if you do have spoilers down below, please tag them with the spoiler tag so that you don't spoil anime only viewers. But I'm excited to hear your comments and what you guys think of the episode. And let me know if you're anime only or if you've read the manga as well. I've done this with Haikyuu. There's several people that watched my Haikyuu reactions that were manga readers as well, but some of you weren't. So who knows? But I'm curious to know your thoughts, and let's do this, guys. Let's dive right in. We're going to start episode 1 of season 5, My Hero Academia, here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. Okay. So, we are back with My Hero Academia. As far as I forget that the first episode of new seasons of My Hero Academia, for the most part, are very recappy episodes. I feel like the last season, I believe it was the one where the journalist came to UA and he was trying to figure out stuff about All for One, or One for All, kind of, and trying to kind of track down Deku and talk to him. And it kind of became him reaffirming that Hero Society, that these kids were going to be good heroes, and kind of reaffirming his faith in the hero system. And this episode was mainly like, oh, hey, did you forget about Class 1A? Here's all their abilities. Here's everything they can do. But there were so many wonderful little moments in that. I think my favorite part of the whole thing was Kaminari being used as a battery for the car. And, of course, Bakugo and Kirishima, jumping off the hood to stop the villain. And Tamaki's like, I didn't sign up for this. And of course, Bakugo has to go the extreme. And I love Horikoshi's angry eyes that he gives Bakugo. And then Aizawa being like, bring him to the faculty lounge. We're going to have a talk with this boy about going overboard. But man, Mirio, I felt so bad for Mirio this episode because if y'all watch season 4, then you know Mirio losing his quirk. And so he's trying to help out Class 1A as a third year. And he's like, the only way I can really help is just to play a hostage and to play a civilian in trouble. And I felt so bad for Mirio in this episode because he was so positive and he was so into it. He's like, oh no, I'm floating down the river. How did this happen? And I kind of liked that he was half in the water and half out because his like permeability quirk would make it to where he was half in and half out of something, of surface of something. So that was really sweet, but it was kind of sad because it's like Mirio has such a cool quirk, and now that he doesn't have it, it's like he can just be like one of the volunteers to help out and be someone for them to rescue. But I thought that was an excellent use of all their showcasing of all their quirks. So like, if you're new to this show, I know we're 5 seasons in, but if for some reason you're joining us for the first time, here's their quirks and here's what they can do. And it was a good showcase of that. And the OP and ED, the OP is very kind of like somber. It's a little more low key than it has been in the past. But I like it. The ED I like a lot. I like the ED a lot because it shows them all in their casual clothes. It reminds me a little bit of the Jujutsu Kaisen ED where everybody's just walking around in casual clothes, and it has like a little more like kind of slice of life feel to it. I like that a lot. But oh man, they spare no expense reminding us about Endeavor and what he's been doing. And then that ending of Endeavor, like cutting back to him and what happened at the end of that match against the Nomu. And then Hawks meeting Dobby in the warehouse. Interesting. And Dobby just showing up on the scene like, hey, Endeavor, how's it going? And then Hawks showing up. So lots of things to talk about in the spoiler corner. Probably more so than usual because I feel like this episode was mainly just a recap to be like, oh yeah, you guys remember Class 1A, right? And we're all sitting here like, yes, we've been following the show. We know our favorites. I do like, though, thinking about the episode, I do like that Bakugo, when he's talking about, he's like, let's go and don't worry about all these extras. Everyone else is an extra except Kaminari and Kirishima. So are those his actual friends? I know Deku's his friend, his frenemy, his rival. But are Kirishima and Kaminari officially his friends? Because they weren't called extras. I'm just saying. But yeah, the OP showing Class 1B. I have a feeling that each time I watch these episodes, I'm going to go back and be seeing what all these characters, what they're doing in those poses. I feel like there's a lot in the OP that I'm going to constantly pick at as the season goes on and notice things, because in the moment everything's happening so much you can't really focus on everything. You're just like, oh, here's this and this, and I can't pause it. So I have a feeling that I'm going to be just going back and rewatching certain scenes to see what happens. But yeah, guys, we're here. We're at season 5. There's not a whole lot to talk about with this first episode, unfortunately, because it's just a recap episode, recapping all the powers and saying, here's where we left off. We had Endeavor fight the Snowmoo, and now we're going to end the episode, possibly going back to that. I feel like this first episode, even though a lot of things were kind of left on a kind of a cliffhanger at the end of season 4, that the studio's like, okay, we need to showcase season 1, or Class 1B, if I can speak, Class 1A again, and show the audience everything that they can do and that they're in hero training. Bakugo and Shoto are still just getting out of their exams and getting caught up with everybody else. And then at the very end of the episode, we get kind of the call back to where season 4 ended in the post-credit scene where we're going to get to see the vestiges. And I'm so excited. And I noticed in the OP, the vestige of the younger brother, the one brother that's the original One for All, he reaches his hand out to Deku to grab his face, and I thought that was a cool parallel because you see All for One reaching his hand forward to the screen. So that's an interesting parallel because they are brothers. So lots to think about, guys. I have a lot to talk about in the spoiler corner, so if you do not want to be spoiled, I don't blame you. But thank you all so much for watching. I feel like this episode was kind of a recap of everything, but there was some really funny parts with Mirio, with Bakugo, with Kaminari, and Kirishima. I forget that Mina's hero name is Pinky. I wish it was Alien Queen, because I remember when she was thinking about that, and I know it's kind of like a copyright thing where it's alien, so you can't really copyright it, but I'm like, but it's so much cooler. So I don't know. And then I liked seeing the Class 1A group showcasing their powers, and I liked the idea that Deku didn't want to go all out. He was like, oh, well, it's just a training. He's like, I don't want to go all out and hurt you. And then, Tamaki's like, no, you treat it like it's serious, and then Bakugo, of course, is like, I'm going to destroy you, die. And it's like, maybe not that serious. But I hope you all enjoyed this reaction. I'm super stoked for season 5. I feel like next episode, it's going to get back on track with the plot. Like I forget that episode 1 of the series is usually the recap of just getting everybody caught back up to speed. But I feel like episode 2 is going to hit the ground running, and I'm pretty excited for that. So, yeah. So I hope you all enjoyed the reaction. If you want to stick around for Spoiler Corner, please do. But otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Stay safe and take care. And I'll be back next week with episode 2 of season 5 of My Hero Academia. With that being said, let's talk about spoilers. Because I'm not gonna lie. I was really surprised about this episode. I'm not mad. I'm a little disappointed. A teeny bit. Can I rant? I don't usually rant about anime, and I love My Hero Academia, but I've got to tell y'all, and if you guys are manga readers, you're probably thinking the same thing I am, but I get that we have to have a recap episode, but this episode was kind of filler. It was all filler. I was so shocked, and maybe I didn't notice it so much in season 4 with the journalist because it was kind of a novel idea with the journalist coming in, and it was just something, it was more intimate, and it was kind of like a more intimate sort of recap and dealing with more of the character development and psychological issues. Maybe that was it, and I wasn't caught off guard by so much of it, but this whole episode I was thinking like, this isn't in the manga. That's why the Mirio thing and the Bakugo in the car, all of that I was like, oh, that's really funny, but this isn't in the manga. Which, the car thing is funny because I think it's going to tie back to the Todoroki situation with Ending when we get to him. But I was kind of like, I get that the show wants to recap it. It's been a year. 2020's been a year. And a lot of people have had a lot on their plate. And maybe you've forgotten about Class 1A. So we need to recap their abilities. But I'm going to be honest. I was really a little concerned by the episode because I was expecting, it seems like episode 2 is going to deal with everything I thought was going to happen in this episode. Because to be honest, y'all, if you all want to know what parts of the manga were in this episode, this panel's it. The last 2 pages of chapter 190, which is where season 4 cuts off at these 2 last pages. Chapter 4 leads up to... I don't know why in the Soapbox episode I said 249. I think I was getting Haikyuu and it confused. But in My Hero Academia in the manga, chapter 190, up until the last 2 pages, that's where season 4 ends. And I was like, oh, okay, well, they're going to start season 5 with Dobby coming in, right? And that's going to kick off the whole thing with Hawks, with Endeavor, everything. This page is the only one that shows up in the entire episode that's actually based on the manga. Everything else is filler and non-canon and just recapping, which is, if you're an anime only, you won't notice it, and it's totally fine. And this episode was fine, but I was honestly a little disappointed. I was like, oh, that, and I think I first noticed it because Deku, the drawing of Deku in this episode was a little bit, did anybody else think it was a little bit off? Just like a little bit. I was getting Haikyuu episode 15 vibes from season 4 watching this, and I was like, oh, did you outsource this? What is this? What are we doing? And I realized halfway through, I'm like, oh, none of this is in the manga. That's why the drawing is kind of off, because there's no reference. They're just winging it. They're just saying, oh, yep, we don't have any reference for this from the manga, so let's just draw these characters. So it felt a little odd. And then going back, I read the manga, and I was like, okay, well, I'll see where I catch up on this. It's just all a filler episode except for the last minute with Endeavor. And I'm a little, I don't know how to feel about that either, because I'm like, I appreciate that they flashed back to Endeavor. He's not happy that He's not happy that the Nomu fight, he didn't consider it a success. It wasn't a clean victory. It was costly to him. It took out his eye. It could have potentially endangered a lot of citizens. It could have been a disaster, more so than it already was. Like, buildings were destroyed. There was collateral damage. It could have been a lot worse, but I get where Endeavor's like, no, 0 points. I may have won the fight, but it technically wasn't a win. And then Dobby coming on the scene there being like, hello, Endeavor. And I was like, oh! But I felt like the episode needed more. When they were doing the whole recap of Endeavor's fight, I'm like, why didn't we just lead right into Dobby from there? And I guess it was only because they wanted to showcase Class 1A and do this little recap episode. And so it wouldn't have made sense to have this high-stakes, shady, dark moment with Dobby and then cut to him and Hawks in the warehouse. But they could have done it. They could have had Dobby show up, Miracle come in to save the day and help him, and then Endeavor's in the hospital, and then they could have done the episode with 1A. They could have done that. They could have cut a few little fillery scenes in this episode and made it make time, and then in the episode with Dobby and Hawks in the warehouse, they could have done that. So I'm so curious. I'm like, are they going to just cut Mirko out? Because what happens in the manga, and I'll save it for next episode because maybe they'll show it to us, but in the manga, Dobby is going to attack Endeavor while he's down, and Endeavor, he's clutching his eye at the end of this episode because he can't see well. His eyesight has been blurred, which is important because he can't recognize Dobby. He can't see Dobby fully in that moment. But Dobby's going to attack him, and then Mirko hops in and is like, oh, hey, I had nothing to do. I'm going to save the day, too. And it allows Hawks and Endeavor to get away, and Hawks to take Endeavor to the hospital. I really, really liked that. And then later in that chapter, we get it's kind of like a fake out, because at first you think, oh, is Hawks working with Dobby? What? No. And then we learned that Hawks is a double agent with the Hero Commission. So it looks like we're getting all of that next episode, but I didn't see Mirko. So I'm like, if they cut out my girl Mirko, our queen, I'm going to be a little mad. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be like, well, show, what are you doing? Because up until this season, the show has, and I talked about this in the soapbox, the show has followed the manga pretty much through and through. And I'm like, now is not the time to start cutting things, because this is where it's getting good. And plot points are relevant. Like, the stuff with Mirko will come back later. So Mirko helping out right now is going to be relevant during the war arc later on. So you can't cut that out. So I'm like, show, don't be doing that. So maybe she's going to show up next episode and we'll see that. Maybe we'll get more on that. And maybe then they'll finish that whole scene with Dobby, and then maybe cut to Hawks in the warehouse with him. And then finish out chapters 191, 192. So I'm so curious how they're going to do that. But yeah, I'm not going to lie, guys. This was kind of a weird episode to start the season. And I'm so hyped because my favorite moments in the manga have yet to happen. And so I'm really curious what we're going to do with this. But yeah, I went into this episode being like, we're going to see Vestiges, we're going to see Hawks, we're going to see Dobby, we're going to get all this stuff with the Hero Commission, and then none of it happened, and I was like, oh no. So, I'm real curious what's going to happen next. I guess we're going to get it in episode 2, which I'm happy about. I'm excited to see this all take shape. But this episode came out of nowhere, and maybe I'd just forgotten how the formula with this anime is, that the first episode of the season is always kind of a recap episode, and maybe I was so hyped for all these things happening that I just kind of like, okay, I forgot about that. So yeah, but I liked the episode, but it's not been my favorite opener of all the seasons, but I'm still really hyped up for season 5. There's so many good moments, y'all, so many good moments, and I'm like, come on, anime, I need to see them animated. I just need to see them. I will say this. Hawks' expressions at the end of this episode, the expressions when he's looking at Endeavor and he's like, you won, it's okay, you're good. Like, he was encouraging, like he felt so happy Endeavor was okay and they won. And then his face, seeing Dobby of just being like, so done. Like, okay, here we go. What you doing? And that will get explained more next episode, why Hawks is mad, because he's like, we had a plan, and you didn't follow the plan, Dobby. What we doing? And Dobby's like, I do what I want. And that's kind of like Dobby's mentality on it. And then Hawks' expression, we see Endeavor in the hospital, and he's like, you're okay. Like, and there's going to be more with that expression again. So I feel like they rushed this last part here to get us hyped up for the next episode, to have the anime only people asking questions. Like, wait, what's happening? What's going on? I feel like they just threw that in at the end to get people excited about next week. But I'm like, next week's so good if you just let off with it. By now we know all these characters. We don't need a recap of their powers. We get it. So I don't want people to get discouraged by this first episode. I don't, because there's so much good coming of episode from season 5 on. There's so much good going to happen. And I'm not going to just get discouraged by this episode. I'm still extremely hyped. I'm not a fan of filler. Like, filler in anime is like a pet peeve of mine. So this episode I was like, well, this is cool, but none of it's canon except the last minute. But what can you do? I'm sure pacing-wise, where they want to end this season, this has a lot to do with it. And as we get closer to the end of the season, I'll probably talk about that coming into play. But for now, I like where the season is starting. I'm glad that they didn't just cut out the Dobby part of him entering. I'm glad they didn't cut that out. And it looks like we're going to backtrack to it next episode. Thank God. Because this stuff is so integral to the story, and it's so good. So I'm glad they didn't chop it out, but I'm real curious how next episode's going to go. It seems like we're going to pick up the pace and start where the manga left off with chapter 191. So I'm pretty excited about that, guys. But we shall see. So in the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction, this discussion in this spoiler corner. I'm still super excited. And next week, now that I know that we're back on track and we're going to start delving into where the manga left off at, it's going to be good. And I can't wait. So, in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll be back next week with episode 2 of My Hero Academia. Bye.